We're back at the Symposium in the sun in Clearwater Beach, Florida. We're with the BCOS Symposium, and joining me now is Chief Tim Sendelbach. Tim just rocked the house on the keynote speech, so well done, man.
Thank you.
Good to have you. Thanks for coming by for a minute.
You bet.
Would you tell us what you talked about what'd you hit him with?
Well, this was kind of a continuation from last year. Last year I did the closing keynote, as they described it, and I just basically picked up where I left off there. I titled it Going Beyond the Status Quo, and I think it's just literally kind of nudging the fire service on all facets, politically, non-politically, all aspects of it. We're in the friendly confines of friends. We should be able to have some critical conversations. So that was kind of the message.
I've watched you do that a couple of different times, and it's fun to watch the room, because you warn them. They got fair warning. Hey, I'm going to make you a little bit uncomfortable, and then Tim will sling what's your favorite grenade to throw?
Obviously I've got a lot of traction out of the helmet. If I pick on the helmet, everybody wants to label me as the anti-leather helmet guy. I'm not. Wear what you want, but when I talk about that leather helmet and us having the silver bullet of safety, but it won't fit in a leather helmet, that gets people.
Yeah.
Because if I have to give up my leather helmet, my image theoretically, I don't want the silver bullet of safety, and that's a powerful message for us to kind of think about.
I didn't understand the helmet thing until I actually went to Europe and wore one. And you know what's missing from the argument on the helmet? It's the face piece.
Absolutely.
The face piece, man. It was such a. I got to wear one for like a couple days while we did live fire training over there. And when I got ready to go home, and I was like, I have to go back and wear. I've got a couple leather helmets. I got to go back and do it the old way now. And I think that's the missing piece of that argument.
I agree. And what told me that, I actually watched a video, a Paris firefighter doing a ladder rescue, took the face piece off. I want to say he did it with one hand, put it on the occupant, gave them quick air, put it back on himself, and then rescued them. And just to see that interface and how it works is pretty incredible.
On and off air really quick. And it's, I got back and I'm like, well, here's my pretty leather helmet, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. But to be clear, is that going to change the American Fire Service? No, I mean, that's not the silver bullet, but it's so interesting that we have bought into one thing that becomes our image. And as I shared today, there is nothing physical that sets our image. It's our actions. Right. I think that's the most notable thing. So.
Yeah. I was surprised when I came back to the States. I immediately reached out to the SCBA manufacturers to go, hey, I want that thing. And they said, well, you can't have that here. I'm like, why not? You sell it to them. Why won't you sell it to us?
Right.
They said, it's not NIOSH approved. I said, well, make it NIOSH approved then. And the reason they wouldn't pursue it was they didn't think there was a market in the United States. So it's like, anyway.
Yeah.
So we go back, man, a few minutes.
Many years. Many years. I knew we were going to go down this path, and I immediately was thinking Coors Field. So.
Oh, yeah. We. So Tim is a past president of the International Society of Fire Service Instructors, and he preceded me. I was the next guy to come in for that agency, that organization. And I always credit you, Shane Ray, and Miss Vicky for, you guys basically did CPR to keep that thing going, So you handed me a viable patient, so thank you. And it's interesting.
We charted it that way too, by the way.
Yeah. Whew. But yeah, it was cool, and it's awesome to see how that organization has grown, over the years too. That I don't even know what their numbers are now. They're very well self-sustained and doing great work, and still working to change the fire service, which is really cool. So thank you for.
No, I'm glad that when you look at the what they call the 7 pillars of the fire service, those notable organizations, the ISFSI representing the instructors. To lose that component of the fire service, I think would have been detrimental. So, handing it off to you was the right move, and you took it to the next level, and they subsequently have done the same with everybody behind us.
Still going strong, man. Yeah, so that's awesome. And the BCOS has always been an important part of, I know of my growth, to be a part of this particular association. In fact, I remember coming to the symposium, and the way I got involved with BCOS, I came to the first symposium, it was actually in Orlando. I don't know what year that was, a long time ago. And I remember doing this on Mike Giamonti's jacket, like, hey, How can I get involved? You know, and then the next thing you know, I got hooked up with Miss Vicky, and off you go.
Yeah.
But, so it's been an interesting evolution. What do you think, looking forward in the fire service, like over the next 5 years, what do you think is our most pressing issue that we need to be thinking about?
You know, we keep talking about it. We talked about it today, recruitment and retention. I truly believe we've got to break the model. We think people are going to naturally migrate to this profession based on what attracted us. You know, we talk about from a career side, a schedule, the camaraderie. People get that camaraderie in a different fashion through technology. We grew up going to the station, and that was whether we were volunteers or career. We love that brother sisterhood in the conversations. Next generation, and I don't fault them in the least bit. They just recognize things in a little different fashion than we do. I think that is going to be a huge challenge, but I also think we need to break the template. I think we continuously try to apply the same template to a changing profession. We talked about it today too. 70% of what we do is EMS. Nobody wants to talk about, is the model working? You know, is a fire truck going to an EMS call the answer? Well, we've scaled that down. We do a QRV or whatever. But is there an additional tweak to that? I don't know. I don't claim to have the answers. What I do claim to do is create the conversations by not being afraid to ask that question. Is that productive? I don't know. I hope it is.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while.
I was at the Metro Planners meeting a few months ago, and one of the key topics I heard there was they were interested in finding ways to get non-emergency calls out of the system, which I thought was an interesting thing, particularly how to handle EMS. You know, that a lot of yes, most of our calls are EMS, but there's a big chunk of that is could be handled differently, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you know, through some other service maybe. But what are you seeing out in your region? You're out in Colorado now. Are you seeing anything different over that way?
Well, I think it's a great question. I guess there's a couple of components. Yeah, some of these low acuity calls, the question is we're fire and emergency services, right? Where do these low acuity calls, and to some degree, I think we've been accused of this, we start venturing down different paths. When we start going down the path of paramedicine, is that the right path? I don't know. That's a whole nother profession.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a challenge. The question is do we need paramedics on every call? We start seeing the recruitment of paramedics is very difficult. Maintain their skills because basically 5% of the calls you go on are going to be ALS intervention calls. And if you're downtown and you got a trauma center across the street, do you really need a paramedic or do you just need to take them across the street?
Yeah.
So I think
it's interesting
we just look at it differently. That's all.
What are you seeing out your way as far as, I mean, you're new to the wildland situation that you mentioned in the keynote earlier.
Yeah.
What's your assessment of that? Because it's certainly been more, I guess, present in the news cycle, you know, and certainly been a challenge for us in the United States. How's that being the new guy?
Yeah, well, let me say this. So the marshal happened December 30th. I got to Colorado October of that year, October 4th. And I watched that fire as I'm doing station rounds with an assistant chief. We can see the plume from our station 7. We're like, man, that thing's getting aggressive. So we ended up sending crews there. But I can tell you as a new fire chief coming into that, knowing nothing. I mean, mountains in Vegas are there, but they're brown. There's not a lot of vegetation. So now you move to Loveland, Colorado, and you got mountains all the way around you. And you're like, man, that's a heavy degree of risk. So it is a complex problem. To me, it's intriguing. We talked about it today. You got to get on the front end. We are not going to fight these fires. There's a component of it, but the real thing that we need to focus on is how do we do mitigation? And that brings in a totally different dynamic of how do you deal with people that want to live within the woods. We got people that live within the trees. I mean, there's trees on each side. So how do you negotiate with them and convince them that, hey, doing a little bit of mitigation is going to make you safer and equally important, your neighbor. It's a pretty contentious process, but to me, that's a fascinating thing, just to kind of work through that. It's new. So.
I don't know that there's, you know, it's starting to seem like it's getting a little further east than what maybe we're used to seeing, you know.
Yeah.
Like in Virginia, they're working a fire where I'm from now. It's fairly rare. I mean, we have them, you know, out in the western part of the state, but it's pretty rare that it becomes like any sort of thing beyond the regular fire service.
Well, I think what we have that's a little bit different. When the mountains get up at 14,000 feet, that weather comes across that, the winds that are generating, that's what we've seen with the Marshall Fire, 100-mile-an-hour winds. That's not a firefighting event. That's an observation. Stand back, observe.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, let it do its thing and then go in and clean up.
Right.
So I think that's the different dynamic. Obviously, the vegetation's different too. When I got out there, I mean, just watching what we deploy on one of those. I haven't been to a lot of events where you're deploying aircraft for something other than medical or technical rescue.
Mhm.
You start seeing aircraft coming in, dropping water, it becomes a big deal quick. You
Yeah.
get a lot of attention. So
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a handle on it pretty quick, because it's like I said, it seems to be spreading more across the U.S. than it has in the past. And
Yeah.
I know for us, I'm retired now, but we were certainly not prepared
Yeah.
when I left to handle any sort of wildfire. We had more than an acre or two. We had to call somebody. So
yeah, acre or two. Yeah,
You know,
hundreds of thousands.
that was
of
a big
acres.
deal.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of acres. So
yeah, it's crazy.
yeah.
So what do you tell me about your department? I'm not. How big is that?
You know, I said it today. I say it in every presentation. I pinch myself every day.
Yeah.
It is an incredible organization. So it's Loveland Fire Rescue Authority. We're 40 miles north of Denver. Combination department, predominantly career. We got 15 volunteers who basically we look at them as our quick response in the wildlands. So they're in the 2 stations that are within the mountains. And we need somebody to get on it quick, give us a size up, tell us, you know, is the Army that's coming going to be enough? But we have 10 stations, 2 of which are in that mountainous region. The other 8 stations include an airport. It's a growing community like anything else, covering a population just over 109,000, 187 square miles. The thing that I brag about the most, equal to our men and women, is just the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our strategic response partners, we meet every other Thursday, have breakfast, and it is, to me, it's a brother-sisterhood. It is like I've never seen before. I kind of compare it to, and this sounds very egotistical, and I don't mean it that way, but Brunacini had 17 departments in the Phoenix region that came together. And I'll tell you, we don't have 17 that come together, but the ones that are immediate response partners, our relationship is seamless. So.
You know, it seems to be a key to survival. I'm puzzled that I still encounter parts of the country where they're not working towards that level of teamwork. And I'm like, I don't see you making it very far with that mindset. You know, you're going to have to work together. That's the only way you're going to be successful, anybody.
Well, I look at the wildland fire being a strong component that brings that together. When a wildfire event occurs, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You can't do it alone, and it'll definitely humble you and let you know that your borders need to drop. They need to drop. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's great info, man. Well, I appreciate you taking a few time, to come in and just chat for a few minutes. You rocked the house on the keynote out there.
I never know.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
it.
So, if you, like I said, if you haven't been to the VCS Symposium in the sun yet, you want to start making plans now, because the thing sells out even before we know who's even doing the speaking and stuff. And you get caliber of speakers like Tim Sendelbach, which is an amazing opportunity for everybody. So be sure to check back. We're coming back again in another hour or so. We'll have another person we grab from the stage and bring them back here and chat about what's going on at the symposium. So be on the lookout. We'll be back shortly. Tim, I appreciate you being here, man.
Appreciate it.
And
Good to see you.
we'll see you in a little bit.